Okay, so first of all, a note on quotation marks. You'll note in the schedule and then here, they have it in quotation marks. And even you might hear, I'll probably stop doing it just to not be obnoxious about it. But a lot of times when you'll hear Rothbardians speaking, they will say, versus the free bankers, and they'll inflect their voice to show you that they're putting it in quotation marks. Or, they might even go full Dr. Evil and free bankers. For possible people online or foreigners, maybe don't, this is from the Austin Powers movies, and this is the villain, and he would do things like, we have developed a laser beam, and then he would go through and talk about his latest plan for world domination. All right, so why are we doing that, besides just being obnoxious? The reason we're saying they're free bankers, or they're talking about the free banking position, is that actually that's a bit of a misnomer in the sense that it's because the people who use that term, right? So the distinction is the Rothbardians who are for 100% reserve banking versus the so-called free bankers, who many of them call themselves Austrians, but what they say is, hey, we're not central planners. We don't want the government to regulate it. Let banks choose whatever reserve ratio they want. Okay, so they got to follow their contracts. If they say to their customers, hey, whenever you show up and you want to pull money out of your checking account, we'll be able to give it to you. And if there's a bank run and they get caught with their pants down, then okay, they should get in legal trouble, just like any entity, any firm in the economy that doesn't live up to its contractual obligations has consequences. But we're not going to, at the outset, have some regulation on the banking sector saying you have to have 100% reserves, right? So that's their position. So that's why they call themselves, hey, we're free bankers. We're not going to micromanage the banks and have them set their particular policies, just like, how much should they charge for a checking account, or what should the rate of interest they pay on deposits be? We're not going to tell them that. We're free market, laissez-faire people, so who are we to tell them what reserve ratio to hold, right? So that's where they're coming from with that label. But as we'll see, the Rothbardians, the ones who are for 100% reserves, they are saying, and I should say, you can be a Rothbardian and not be for 100% reserves, but in this, just for convenience, I'm going to use those terms interchangeably. Where they're coming from is many of them think it's actually fraud, and I'll get to that in a minute, and for sure they think that it sets in motion the boom-bust cycle. Okay, and so like for Murray Rothbard himself, his position was that in a free society, because he thought fractional reserve banking was inherently fraudulent, it wouldn't be legal, right? And it wasn't, that wasn't like a statist perspective. Just to give you a silly analogy, Rothbard would also say in a free society, going in and at gunpoint robbing a convenience store would be illegal. And it would be silly for someone on the other side to say, oh, so you want the government to regulate the use of ski masks and shotguns? Ooh, I thought you were a libertarian. You see how that would be kind of like, what are you talking about? I'm just talking about so likewise, if you think that if you think fractional reserve banking is inherently fraudulent, and oh, by the way, it causes the boom-bust cycle, then you can see why you might say in a free society the courts wouldn't uphold that and da-da-da. And then it would be a sort of, offshoot to say, okay, given right now that we don't live in a free society and we don't have free market judges, what should government policies be? And there, you could have all kinds of positions. You could think in a free society the legal system wouldn't uphold it, but given that where we are right now, I don't want the Federal Reserve coming in and regulate. So there's all sorts of nuanced positions you could have. But I'm just pointing out this is why standard Rothbardians actually bristle somewhat at the label free banking, but the label stuck, so we got to use it.